Hello, hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity. Today we have the one and only Luke
Luke
Gallas.
Gallas. Yes, sir. Nice to be here with y'all today.
All right, Luke. How old are you?
I am turning 29 next month.
Oh, the big 2-9.
Yep, 29, man. Almost at 30 here. 20s
Yeah.
are winding down to nothing.
Yeah. Once you hit 30, it gets like you. I thought 23 and 24 was like, oh, I'm old. No, 30, like I felt it the next day. Anyways, you are not from the Dallas area, correct?
Nope, definitely not. I grew up in Brenham, Texas, and then I moved to Bryan College Station
Okay.
for my teenage years, high school and stuff. But for my early adult life, I've lived in South Texas, anywhere between San Antonio and Austin, up and down I-35. That was my stomping grounds right there.
Ooh.
Yes, sir. So, my first time in the DFW area. Definitely liking it here. A little bit less humidity, but still good Texas atmosphere for sure.
That's good. Uh, so you've kind of been all over Texas, uh, or
Sure.
just more the southern-ish, southern east?
Well, I was in West Texas for a little while, but not for very long. So, yeah, I've been making my way around Texas.
So you know what always threw me off is that Amarillo is North Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I'm from. But apparently, it's actually West Texas, which doesn't make sense because like Dallas is
Considered
considered
North
north.
Texas. Yeah, exactly. But yet Amarillo is way farther up in the
Mm-hmm.
Panhandle, man.
Yeah, from here to Amarillo is about 6.5, 7 hour drive. So yeah, or if you take a plane, it's like 45 minutes. It's weird, but let's see. And so you're in the Oxford house. Uh, so what was your DOC, if I may ask?
Yeah, of course. So me, uh, what finally brought me into recovery, and caused me to actually have to go to rehab and everything, was methamphetamine. Uh, I'm an ice user, like to roll the bowl, man. You know, it wasn't always like that. You know, I started off just smoking weed, taking a few Adderall here and there, uh, you know, all the psychedelics and stuff. But when I hit that bowl, man, for the first time, shit, it was a wild ride, man. It was a 5 year ride of my life right there. It was pretty darn solid. I'd always played around with drugs ever since I was 15 and everything. Um, but I was always able to kind of keep my cool with it and all. But with meth, it just got progressively worse. Started off fun, but
Mm-hmm.
eventually, that monster got me. I thought I could control it, but unfortunately, I enjoyed it too much. You know, it was taking a place in my life it was never meant to take.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Uh, I know you'd said you liked it too much, and whenever I was going through me and my some of the guys and I were talking, and I was like, man, my ex-wife, she was like, you didn't love me enough, and I was like, but I did, and he was like, no, you loved the alcohol a little bit more, and I was like, nah, but after some searching around, I was like, yeah, that sucks. Uh,
Hmm.
so and it's weird how it goes from like pleasure and like that little bit of a rush, and then it suddenly goes way south. And for me, it was like just taking part in it was like surviving. So it got tedious and like exhausting. Did it get like, would you say that it in the end it lost all of its glamour, or did you sit there and like kind of want to do more, or did you really see like the light at the end of the tunnel and you just ran full speed?
That's a hard question to answer right there, man. To be honest with you, even to this day, I still have thoughts of, damn, that was fun for a while there, you know?
Mhm.
But like I said, it got to a point, it was taking a place in my life it was never meant to take. When I say it was too fun, I mean, there's using and it was a good time, and then there's using and it felt like it was filling something that it was completing you, like I've always been an introverted person. I've always been a quiet person. I don't talk much
Mhm.
except when I feel like there's something that needs to be said. I'm very easygoing and lackadaisy about stuff. But when I was on meth, man, it opened up a whole new vista. Um, it completely changed. I was
Mhm.
I became a person that I thought I wanted to be. And unfortunately, in order to maintain that facade, I had to keep using.
Mhm.
And as I kept using, and the more I relied on the drug to try to create myself to something I thought I wanted to be,
Mm.
the more it took from me, the more it degraded who I was as a person, to where I was crossing boundaries I would never have crossed before, to the point where I was convincing myself, you know, of just insanity. Like, it'll be all right this time. It'll be all right to keep going on. Yeah,
Mhm.
this, yeah, I did this, but always the buts was the thing, man. And that's what we talk about with the mental twist, when we really get into this in the
Mhm.
spiritual malady, is how our own minds become our worst enemies once we've reached our drug of choice and we are caught in its grips.
Yep. And that was one thing that I found kind of weird is that, like you, the alcohol made me feel like I was someone else because it would slow me down. It would kind of put me in a spot where I felt normal, if that makes sense, if there is such a thing as normal.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you described it perfect that it, because you said facade. So to keep the facade, you had to keep using and then feeling great, unfortunately. But it's kind of a self defeating cycle. Well, kind of in the end, right?
Oh yeah, it's always self-defeating because it's like in the book it says, when it's that elusive feeling. We can't quite put a name on it or describe it.
Yep.
But in our minds, it's always described as pleasurable, as ideal, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it seemed like for the longest time for me. Even when I was running relationships, you know, I still thought, you know what, I can handle this. I've got it, you know,
Yeah.
when I really didn't.
Sorry to hear, man. And yeah, it's kind of weird because it seems like I don't know if it's our drug choice or if it's ourselves that keep telling us, or a combination of it's going to be different, or that was actually fun because I was told to play the tape out all the way through. And I've heard some guys, they play the tape through and they say it sounds like a fun time. But for me, it was still pain. Uh, but my brain does like to tell me, well, remember when it started? Like, that was fun.
Yep, exactly. And that's one of the things that I've come to learn now. It's one of the reasons why I'm so grateful that I stay ingrained in the program on a day-to-day basis, especially with the opportunities I get to work with the new guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I stay very connected with the rehab center that I came out of, and going back there and giving back, reminds me on a constant day-to-day basis of what my mindset was like on day one, because it's so easy to slip back into that point where that mental twist can catch me and snare me in its trap. Because you know I dabbled with a lot of drugs. I know you brought up the point about whether or not it's our drug of choice or it's a combination of our personality and all of these other factors,
Mhm.
I dabbled with a lot of drugs. I started smoking weed when I was 15. I was going over to friends' houses. I was going to college parties, living in Bryan College Station. You know, there was nothing else to do. You're either
Yeah.
running around doing the wrong thing or, you had to be clicked up in school. And that
Mhm.
wasn't me. I was socially awkward, and the drug scene was where I felt most at home because it didn't matter who I was. It just mattered how I behaved and what I was into doing. But I dabbled with many different drugs. I started smoking weed at 15, started drinking, you know. And then whenever I graduated high school, I went on a long run with Molly and LSD,
Mhm.
um, and a lot of other different types of psychedelics, mushrooms, um, some stuff, 2CB, a few things I don't even quite remember what the heck we were doing. I'm pretty sure we didn't even know either.
Yeah.
We were just trying what was available. The
Mhm.
person sold it to us and they were having a good time on it. We were okay with it. We'd give it a shot.
Yeah.
So, and it was an interesting thing because with those drugs, I could do them and then I could leave them alone. It wasn't a nagging, I have to have this to change me. I didn't have to have the Molly to be somebody who I thought I wanted to be.
Mhm.
And whenever those supplies ran out, I was fine. I was perfect, even with the Adderall and the Ritalin, because my first experience with amphetamine was with Adderall, and methylphenidate, which is Ritalin.
Mhm.
But with those things, I could leave them be. They were fun, they were enjoyable, but I didn't have to have them all the time, you know.
Yeah.
But it was crazy. Once I tried methamphetamine, it was it was more intense than the first time I tried weed. It was when I first tried weed, I was like, dang, this is my new best friend right here. This makes me feel good and this makes life seem, you know,
Worth it.
yeah, not even just worth it. It just opened up that spiritual side. Like it almost
Uh.
felt like there's something more to everything than what just meets the eye. And which,
Mhm.
if you ever dabble in psychedelics, that's all we are ever chasing is that elusive idea that there's something behind the scenes,
Mhm.
that we can't quite perceive. And with methamphetamine, you know, I had a more stronger feeling than I ever did with anything else. I was like, dang, this is my new best friend, and boy, did I go on a run with it. Um, for a long while, I managed to hold shit together. But like I said, the more I depended on it to change who I was, the more it took from me of who I really was.
Mm. That's
So,
well put. Uh, and you actually hit on something I was going to ask about because it seems like in our teenage years, or some of us, we start to fall into trying things, and then like you, I could do cocaine. I could go do basically anything else, and like you, I could take it, set it aside, and I was fine. I didn't sit there and obsess over it. It would just be, hey, I got it, cool. And then once it was out or out of sight, out of mind, I was good. So for you, it was literally just the first time with the methamphetamine that you went, okay, yeah, that
that is
is,
what I want. That is
yeah.
how I want to feel on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it started with my usage is I started off just trying to use a little bit at a time to maintain this elusive feeling,
Mm.
you know? And of course that little bit over time, it didn't start off right away. It grew gradually over a course of a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Did my usage start to grow into an out of control thing. But like I said, the more I tried to use it for what it was never meant to be for, the
Mm-hmm.
more it took. Um, it's a wild ride, man. It really is. Hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like one. And uh, I got a question on the, was it, well, you said it's a facade to keep feeling or thinking you're being who or how you want to be, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So in recovery, have you kind of found a way to be that person, and so it's easier to kind of like keep it out of your sight, out of your mind, kind of thing? Like, do you feel that you've actually evolved into that person you wanted to be? And do you think that you actually got something good out of it all?
So that's an interesting question you posed there. So in short, no, I haven't evolved into the person, but I am evolving. So it's kind of interesting. One of the things when I was working my 4 step and I started realizing all my insecurities, all the things that I was trying to fix using my drug of choice, using meth,
Mm-hmm.
the more I began to realize that these are things I was going to need help, from my higher power in order to conquer. Um, and so I set forth on on doing things that didn't make me comfortable. You know, um, public speaking um, before was an impossibility for me. On
Okay.
methamphetamine, I could speak all day long about nonsense. You know, that was a drawback. Yeah, you want to use this to be able to talk in front of people and have confidence. Great, I'll give you that. But you're going to talk about nonsense. Is
Ah.
what you're going to do. Is what it ended up coming down to. So after coming to a realization of why I was using it and what I was using it for, really delving into that 4 step, I set on to try and put myself into situations that I wasn't comfortable with. You
Mm-hmm.
know, now I lead classes over there at the ARC. I'm able to stand in front of large groups of people and actually speak in front of them by doing this, and I know it's all due to my higher powers giving me the strength to try to overcome these boundaries that I set for myself, because that was the
Mm-hmm.
truth of it. You know, those boundaries never really existed. I set them in my place, and I said I needed this to overcome my own imaginary boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And now that I see them for what they are, not as boundaries, but insecurities, my own selfish self getting in the way,
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm able to try and conquer them. Now, it's not an easy process. I'm not perfect at it. It's a trial and error. But by working and recognizing that my fear, my own selfish desire to be afraid of taking those steps, is only just a path to leading back to my insanity,
Mm.
you know? So either grow or go back. There is no in between about it.
That is good. I really like that outlook, and you make some good points. Like, you are uncomfortable doing some things, but you don't let it stop you.
Yeah.
You realize that that's kind of where you need to grow. And it's kind of sounds like me, whenever you're uncomfortable, you're finding out that you're too big for your cage, if you will. So, kind of like how a fish will grow depending on, uh, like, it. Did you know goldfish can actually get really big?
Based on the environment that they're put in.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the environment that we put ourselves in is going to reflect the amount of growth and the kind of growth. You put yourself into a negative environment with limitations, you're not going to get very much growth, and the growth you do get is not going to be good growth. But you put yourself in a healthy environment with a plenty of space to try and find a healthy way to expand. You know, we
Mm-hmm.
all need some level of limitation so we don't, overstep on other people's,
Mm-hmm.
uh, disrespect anybody in some way. But at the same time, those obstacles just provide learning opportunities for us, and that's one of the things I've kind of learned. Um, I've come to a point where I'm accepting myself for my flaws and for who I am,
Mm-hmm.
and with that acceptance of that, now I can see the path that I can try to go down. in order to get the growth that I want to see.
Dang. Well, uh, I do gotta say, remember, you're young. Like we're both young. I think one of the pitfalls that catch a lot of people, uh, especially with like addiction, would be the fact that, well, for myself at least, I know whenever I was 18, I was like, I'm an adult. I can do adult things. I know, like, I am smart. I can go do this and this and this and this. Now that I'm 30, like, I look back at being 21, 18, 23, 24, and I was like, damn, I was still a baby. Like,
Hmm.
I think for me, I was pushed to be like who I was supposed to be at the end of my life in such a short amount of time. And that's, I think, one of the factors that kind of created that hole that I was seeking to fill with alcohol. And it just made me feel, like you were saying, the person I wanted to be, more of a persona of like you have your persona of who you were, and then you have your actual personality, yourself, as you are, but in sober time.
Hmm.
And you are working with guys, not only just in like your actual work environment, but you're a sponsor, correct?
Yes.
And so, do you see a lot of you in some of the guys you sponsor?
Yes, all the time. It's one of the biggest reasons why it's so important to sponsor. It's because you learn more about yourself by hearing the stories of other people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the because it's like they say, um, every if you look at somebody long enough, you're just gonna see a reflection of you
Mm.
within them. You know, they may seem different on the outside, but we all have similar qualities, similar circumstances. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and if you look hard enough, you can see, you know, that spiritual aspect of life where we are all the same. We're all brothers, and you learn a lot about yourself hearing each other people's stories, learning about their trials, their tribulations, their struggles. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, but to go back a little bit, it's one of the things when I talk about growth and stuff. In my recovery, um, now that I can see that there's an opportunity for growth without having to use, drugs or a chemical substitute to achieve it. I can actually see, I have more faith in it. I can be patient with my growth now because I can see the stability of it.
Mm.
It's not temporary or fleeting. It's not going to be here today and gone tomorrow just
Mm-hmm.
because of one factor or another. It's actually got a foundation, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So, would you equate being sober or uh, going along your path of recovery as kind of entirely restarting who you were, or do you think you had like some cornerstones in place and you use those to build your new foundation for who or what you wanted to be, and you're kind of you're open to growth, as in you don't have a finite like limitation on yourself. um is that making sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
um
So, to be honest with you, there's parts and pieces. There's things about myself that aren't, you know, the person who I am, that doesn't change. Um, but the aspects, the behaviors, you know, the maturity, those things change. Um, like I said, once I sobered up and started working the program, I came to an acceptance of who I am.
mhm
So in a lot of ways, I was able to start off from from who I was before the drugs with a
Oh,
more accepting nature of who I am and who I was naturally meant to be,
gotcha.
and grow from there.
I like that. That was a good way to put it. Uh, yeah, someone said, I heard, it actually was really what you'd said, uh, but they had equated it to they're still a hatchling and they're trying to jump out of the nest, and that was addiction. And then they just sat in the nest, and then it was uncomfortable. But whenever it's time for them to go, they were big and too big for the nest, so they have to go. And then someone else said, "Yeah, but I'm the bird with the damn broken wing." And so he said he had a physical disability that kept him in his addiction stage. And then I saw this big O debate open up about no, your physical standpoint is not what keeps you in this addictive stage. Like you said, it's your personal, it's your spiritual growth that allows you to escape your physical uh, boundaries, limitations. Uh,
Yeah. So one of the things I love the most, whenever you get me talking about the program and stuff, is step three.
mm-hmm,
I made that decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood Him.
mm-hmm,
Um, that has always been such a powerful step for me, in overcoming all of this stuff, because once I made that decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood Him, um, these thoughts of mine, what, oh, I've got this limitation, I've got this boundary, I don't think I can do this, or I can give this up because, of such and such, such and such. It no longer matters because, like it says in step three, I have a new employer who,
mm-hmm.
being all powerful, will take care of everything I need as long as I stick to this program and I do his work well. And ever since I took that to heart and I quit thinking about myself and started thinking about how I can be of service, finishing out these steps so that I can improve as a person, so
Mm-hmm.
that not just for me, but just so I can go from being a drag on society, but to being a functional benefit to those around me, to my community, to the people I come in contact with. Because before, I was clearly, just a detriment to those in my life and anybody who I came around. I
Mm-hmm.
was the lunatic running down the street that they were like, hey, why the hell isn't he locked up, guys? He's causing a nuisance here.
Mm-hmm.
My poor family and stuff, things they had to go through, worrying all night. Um, but yeah, so since I turned my will and my life over to the care of God, it doesn't matter what I think I can or can't do, you know.
Mm-hmm.
All it matters is I try to improve. And then ever since I've tried to improve, following these steps and being of service to people, those acts of service have inadvertently turned around and improving the things that I thought I never could do on my own. Like I said, I went from not being able to talk to anybody, being completely socially awkward, to making great leaps and bounds of overcoming this,
Mm-hmm.
without even without really even focusing on it headlong. Inadvertently, I was presented with situations uh, where I had to step up and get over my fears, not because I said I want to do this for my benefit, but because I need to do this to be of service. You know,
Gotcha.
the first time I was asked to lead a Bible study class, I was like, you're kidding me, right? I know nothing here, dude. I'm a complete idiot. Like, what? 20 people in this class, and I'm supposed to, sit up here and keep them entertained, keep their attention, and have them leave here with a positive message. You got me fucked up, bro. Like, you got me fucked up. I, but like my sponsor said, he said when an opportunity comes to be of service, you
Mm-hmm.
take it whether you think you're ready for it or not, you know? Because you don't learn what you need to know and then do it. You learn how to do it by
Doing what you need to
doing
do.
it, by taking that chance, that leap of faith, you know?
Yep.
So yeah.
So, uh, you said by being in service to others, I know step 12, I've heard broke down is we keep what we got by giving it away and or by teaching. Um, and so it's funny that not only do you like work at the place to help get you clean, you are uh, leading Bible classes, you're sponsoring the other guys, and so you're not just helping the society by working, you're helping the families and the individual. Like, you're helping build up society to where we need to be. You're being that person that goes, hey, there's a crack in the wall. Let me go repair it, or at least doing your best. And I think that's kind of what we're called to do, if that makes sense. We're supposed to be helping people out this whole time, and somehow we got in our own way.
Yeah. Well, so on that note there, I don't ever think of it as grandly as that, I would I'd be a fool to let my ego get a hold of that little tidbit there. It might run wild on me, you know. But personally, I believe that we as human beings, we are people that have to be of service to people in order to have that fulfilling life. Like I said, when I was using drugs before and I began my journey with drugs, I was chasing this elusive spiritual experience,
Mm-hmm.
that there's got to be something behind the curtain that I can't see, you know? If you ever listen to Terrence McKenna, he describes it a lot when he talks about his experiences with mushrooms and psychedelics and stuff.
Huh.
Um, but we're all chasing that spiritual experience, whether it's through drugs, through our jobs, through the people that we associate with, love interests,
Mm-hmm.
thrill seeking. We all chase that spiritual experience in life. But one of the things that I believe that really brings it out is being of service to one another. I think as humans, we are called to be of service to each other because that's the only way we can get out of our selfish mind. If we're stuck in our selfish mind, nothing, no matter what we get or what we gain, will ever be enough.
Mm-hmm.
But by being of service to people and seeing the growth in our fellow man and our fellow human beings, there's a beauty that money can't buy. Nothing, no experience can replace. You
Mm-hmm.
know, just being overjoyed for another person's well-being. You know, and it just makes all the things that we do have. Makes you so much more grateful for what you do have.
Mm-hmm.
It makes the fruit so much sweeter.
Oh yeah.
As I would say. You know.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Colonel Lewis at the Nehemiah, one of his favorite sayings is a grateful addict will never relapse. And
Amen.
I thought that at first I was like, nah, that's hogwash. And then I got to thinking about it and I was like, well, how grateful was I actually
Yeah.
whenever I was in my shit?
Exactly. When I first came into the rehab, you know, one of the resident managers there, he always used to talk about being happy, joyous, and free. And I was like, what are you smoking behind the building, bro?
Uh-huh.
Like there ain't no way, dude.
Yep.
Happy, joyous, and free, bro. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're kidding me, right? I'm just hoping to get my life together. I don't even expect to be happy with it. I just want to be like, be able to hold my head up and say, all right, at least I ain't screwing shit up. I never expected to be happy, joyous, and free, you know? But it is true,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And it's only something that you can come to realize by putting in the work and actually doing it. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
can try to describe to you what happy, joyous, and free feels like, but you won't know it until you experience it. You can't experience it until you start on the process of working the steps, getting close to God again,
Mm-hmm.
and then trying to give that back to somebody else, you know?
Very good. And yeah. Uh what is that guy smoking?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure some of the new guys at the rehab center, when they see me, think the same darn thing.
Oh yeah. But I mean, it is one of those things that I think, uh, well, not to put it in a bad way, but like Facebook, it has made people focus on the highlights and not the stuff in between that even makes the highlight an actual highlight. And so I know I was like 14, 15, looking at Facebook, and I was like, oh, look, these guys are having so much fun and they're doing this. And then after high school, it was like, oh, well, this person has their shit together. This person has their shit together. And then I was like, well, I don't got my shit together. What the fuck am I doing wrong? And then slowly, as I got my head out of my ass, I was like, oh, no one has their shit together. We're just good at like acting it out sometimes. And
Yeah,
then the ones that are actually happy, they're okay to admit that, yeah, I don't know what the fuck's going on, but I'm having fun.
yeah,
So
exactly. And
what?
another thing is too is, what works for somebody else's life isn't going to work for your life.
Bing, bing, bing.
And we got to get out of this mentality of we're not cardboard cutouts, guys. We're not. Have you ever seen those subdivisions where they pop them up overnight and every house looks the same? You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's not how this works for us humans. We're all different. You know,
Yes, sir.
and one of the things is you know, despite all the stuff that's gone on in my life and the things I've done, I wouldn't change it at this point. You know,
Mm-hmm.
being where I'm at now, understanding, because if I was to change my life and be somebody completely different, everything else that's going on in the world would still be the same. There would still be other addicts out there that need help, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and I just wouldn't be in the position I am to help them anymore, you know. So I'm grateful for where I'm at. It's one of the things that keeps me going through all of this is remembering that, you know what? I get an opportunity to be a part of something that is completely unique to us as addicts. You know,
Yes, sir.
we as addicts, we get to experience a whole different um, tempo of life than everybody else. You know, and instead of wailing over the fact that we're not normies, we need to. That's what they say. Those people that can drink and use moderately. We may not be normies, but we don't need to be, man. There is an enjoyment that can come from the pain that we've gone through and the
Yes,
pain that
sir.
we've caused.
Yep.
And it's another reinforcing fact is remembering all the stuff that has happened in the past
Mm-hmm.
just gives me more reason, because there's nothing I can do to change what I've done, and there's nothing I can do to fix a lot of things that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
But I can go forward and not do those things again and hopefully make somebody else's life a little bit better you know
Yes, sir. I'm in agreement with you. Because, yeah, I wouldn't change damn thing. All the pain, all the suffering, whether it be my own. I kind of wish I could minimize the pain and suffering of the people that I had harmed inadvertently, but that'd be the only thing I would change. All this stuff I went through, there was a reason for it, or at least there is now, and
Hmm.
that's what's beautiful. And I remember someone was telling me, uh, "You're a thief," and I was like, "Well, no, I've never stolen anything on purpose." And they were like, "Well, what about the joy, peace, and happiness that you're stealing from your family while you're in addiction?" And I was like, "Hey, is stealing a feeling making me a thief?" And he was like, "Well, were they at peace?" And I was like, "Probably not." And he said, "You're a thief." I was like, "Damn."
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, well, you actually answered my next question. Actually, two. Uh, so last one I really got. Uh, Advice to addicts or the family of addicts. Uh, just like one day at a time. I mean, for me, it's sometimes just an hour at a time, but it's a day by day thing. What would you say for someone else that's struggling or maybe about to take that final step into full blown addiction and they don't even know it yet?
Yeah, that's a hard one right there, I'm gonna say. You know, for everybody who knows that they're an addict and knows that they're sick and tired of being sick and tired,
Mm-hmm.
take the plunge, go for it, dive into this thing, man. You ain't got nothing to lose and everything to gain. For the person that doesn't know that they're an addict and they're about to take that plunge, well, I'll see you on the other side, buddy. Because there was nothing that anybody could have told me that would have changed my mind before I became an addict. I was already set on that path, and that's what was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they tried their darndest in school to tell me drugs are bad. Then I found out they lied about weed,
Yeah,
and then it was just all hands off, all cards off the table. You know.
I've never been offered free drugs. I
Yeah,
don't know what that was about.
I don't know what that's about at all either. You know. If anything, they could be a little bit more honest about drugs and what they actually do.
Yes, sir.
Because it isn't always the horror story that they paint,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, um, yeah,
The
it,
horror story is living through it.
horror stories living through it, yeah. And what can I say, man? Like I said, you know, if you're destined to become an addict, you're gonna be there. But that's another call for us who are in recovery to be ready and willing to help these people that are going to be just like us. Because
Open them.
that's what we're called to do. We were these people, and we're the only ones who can understand what they've been through and what they're going through.
Yes, sir. And again, that's why this is called retrieving sanity. And so you are a sanity giver, retriever. I don't know. We'll come up with a good term.
I don't know. You tell me.
I don't know. That's up in the air. I
Yeah.
can't juggle very well, so hopefully you can catch. Um, but this has been a great interview, and uh, we'll make sure that the two camera angles get used because again, this is a learning process. It grows with me, so I can't thank you enough. And I didn't tell Nico this, but the people I interview, I plan on interviewing more than once, more than twice, and about different things, and just see where it goes. So,
All right. Well, I'll be glad to come back. And thank you for your time.
yes, sir. Thank you very much, and you have a good, well, to the audience, have a good rest of the morning, afternoon, evening, night, any in betweens, and any befores and afters. So, thank you for joining us at Retrieving Sanity and the one and only Luke Gallas.